everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of The Joy of Being for busy working mums and women in business and beyond who are seeking to unplug from their worries and overwhelm to light up with insight and joy. I, your host, mum, and effortless lifestyle coach Marina Pearson, talk to transformational professionals, business owners, and creatives about what it really takes to have a business and life you can truly enjoy. And today I've got some amazing news. You can now pre-order your very own version of the Joy of Being book, supporting hardworking mums to stress less and live more. If you're the type of mum who is struggling with the burdens of motherhood or modern day life, then this will be a perfect book for you. If you're curious, you want to know more, and you want to see what's up with that book, you can do so at www.marinapearson.com/order. And there you'll find all the amazing goodies that you'll get if you pre-order the book before the 10th of May. And on today's show, we have the beautiful Shari Thompson. Shari Thompson runs her own marketing company, helping mums specifically to create funnels that keep generating money again and again and again and again. And she does this with a difference. She looks at who you are, who you be, and then aligns that funnel to you. So first of all, it's about really getting clear on your lifestyle so that you can be supported by your business. During our conversation today, we talked about her story and about how she used to come from a place of hustle and push to the point where she drove herself into burnout and she couldn't move. We also discussed some of her major epiphanies around that and what really changed for her so that she could bounce back from burnout. We also talked about how energy works and how you need to understand what the energy is saying so that you can actually create a business that's really aligned and can be truly successful. So if you're a mum who's tired of the hustle, if you're a mum who's tired of pushing, if you even work in corporate and you're thinking about starting a business, then this is going to be an amazing episode for you. Enjoy. So welcome everybody. And today I have the beautiful Shari Thompson. I don't know. I can't remember how we connected, somewhere in the cyberspace. I think I must have reached out to see if anybody wanted to come on the podcast about a year ago or something. And I found out that Shari was living in Bali, of all places, which is where my son was born. So there was definitely that connection. And also her story was pretty phenomenal. So I felt like it was relevant to the Joy of Being conversation. And since that moment, she's now creating a beautiful event called Millionaire Mamas, which I'm excited to know more about. But really over to you, Shari. So what are you up to now? Because you're back from Bali. You're now in the north of England with your little one. So yeah, what is it you do, and what has got you so interested, or at least motivated, to create this extraordinary event called Millionaire Mamas and the work you do?
Okay, thank you for having me, Marina. It does feel like a long time ago since we started talking originally. So yeah, it's interesting the twists and turns that have happened in that time. So my background is in marketing, and specifically in very male-dominated corporate world. So construction and engineering in the oil and gas industry. So yeah, very traditional industries. It was interesting. And I always had this kind of entrepreneurial spirit. I tried to start so many businesses and they didn't work for various different reasons. I've always loved money, and I'm happy to own that. I like money, and I also really like freedom. And this is one of the things that drives me the most, is to have my version of freedom, which has changed in lots of different ways. I started my first business 7.5 years ago when I was a newly single mum. So my baby's dad left when I was pregnant. I was working and doing this 400-mile commute every week and leaving my son when he was born with my parents for 3 days a week. And so I knew when he was 4 months old that I really had to look at what I was doing with my life, because I did not have this baby to leave him all the time, right? So at the time, my version of freedom was really about flexibility, and it was about the flexibility to be present with Archie and to be a mom, and to then, like, it wasn't even in my mindset at the time to look at like 6-figure business or 7-figure business. It wasn't about the money. Really, my drive at the time was to be with him. And really, my journey has continued from there in lots of different ways, in that I made a lot of mistakes. I refer to my first few years of business as stubbornly failing for lots of reasons. And now I'm really motivated to share what I know about business and what I know about how energy works and how fully supported we can be with things like funnels in our business, to be present as a mum and to create our version of freedom, whatever that looks like for you. So I guess that's where I am in a nutshell.
I know when we first talked, there was a story around being a single mum and looking after your son and not having that freedom. Obviously, you know, when you were working the corporate job, that wasn't the case. But I mean, it was the case in the sense that you weren't with him. But I can't remember what the story was. And so I guess I'm just going to ask you, what was that story we spoke about back then?
You know what? I can't even remember, but I can tell you a little bit about what was happening then for sure, because I think it's really interesting. And the reason why I spoke specifically about the corporate world and being in the male-dominated world was that there was this perception that I had around what business should be. And I really don't even like the word should. I had this perception around what it should be and what it should look like, and that you had to work really hard. And so when I stepped into being a business owner or an entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it, I still had one foot in the corporate world until I was ready to make that transition for sure. And so I created my business from what I had experienced. And it looked like working really hard, pushing really hard, juggling a lot of things, and almost wearing the I only have 2 hours sleep a night as a badge of honor, you know, like, look at me doing all these things. I'm so independent, and I'm so, you know, I'm a single mum. I'm really independent. I'm doing all these business things, and I'm not sleeping much. And it was almost like that was what I had experienced. Now, bearing in mind, like 7.5 years ago, it wasn't like it is now. It wasn't like you're on Facebook all of the time networking and that kind of stuff, because actually I got all my resources from Google. It wasn't even like I was looking on Facebook, I was going to Google. So we've got to remember how much things have changed in that space of time too. But what I experienced was a lot of hustle, and what that ultimately led to was a maxed out credit card, because I kept investing, a lot less time with Archie, and this kind of almost an urge to get him into bed so that I could focus on the business. And that's really not a nice place to be in. You know, I've got this beautiful baby boy who I was told I would never have. He's my greatest manifestation. And because I knew the business was the key to my version of freedom, it was like I was willing him to get into bed so that I could work all the hours. And what ultimately happened was I burnt out, spectacularly burnt out, and couldn't take care of him, which was really scary.
So when you say you burnt out, what actually happened?
So, I mean, I was always run down and on the verge of a cold or an illness or something that never came. But this one particular day, I had helped my sister move into a new house. So because she doesn't drive, so I'd driven the van and all this stuff, and I felt a bit run down. And then got back, and within the space of about half an hour, I'd gone from feeling pretty rubbish to my whole body like physically curling up and my fingers cramped up. I couldn't move. I couldn't call anybody. I couldn't even put a dummy in Archie's mouth. Like, he was laying on the sofa next to me. I couldn't even put a dummy in his mouth. And what had happened was I'd got an infection that was from this is my version of burnout, I guess, that had got so deeply ingrained in my nervous system that I felt like I was having a stroke. I couldn't move my mouth. I couldn't feel my face. I didn't know what was going on. And to be in a house by yourself with a baby and not even be able to move was so totally terrifying. And in that moment, I mean, I'm really, really fortunate that I have such a great community around me. One of my friends actually stopped by to see if I was okay. She called my parents. My mum took the baby and my dad took me to hospital, and I was really supported and cared for. But in that time, I knew that the way that I was working had to fundamentally change.
Isn't it amazing, though, how our body keeps telling us, right? The signs are always there, but we just keep going because we feel like our ego just goes, yeah, whatever. But our body just goes, yeah, no, hang on. And I guess I've had my own version of that, and it just is kind of like, now I just need to slow down, or now I just need to find a different way to live, or now I just need to live my life, or at least have a different experience of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that thing, isn't it, that we have it in, well, I certainly had it in my mind, and I witnessed this with the women that I work with as well. When I get to this point, then I can slow down, whatever that point is.
Yeah.
Then I can slow down. Or when I get sick, then I'll do self-care. And it's like, no, we've got to do it the other way around.
Yeah, because it doesn't actually have to be then this, then that. It can actually be now this and this at the same time, right? And it's so interesting. I was reflecting on this today. Like, I've got to get some copy done for this course that I'm creating called Back to Balance in 90 Days, A Fresh New You. And it's for mums, right? Who feel like they're not coping, who feel like they're drowning, who feel like they need some respite. And I had this urgency, like, tomorrow's the deadline. Okay. So there's this sort of logical sense of, oh, I need to get it done today, so at least I have some more time tomorrow. But there was a part of me that was kind of willing, going, well, there isn't enough hours in the day. I've got these 2 podcast interviews today. I then kind of may have a little nap. So that kind of blows today out. But here's the thing. What if tomorrow I'm totally on and I just get it done? So there's a sense that time is linear in some shape or form, and then we have to put our efforts into the linear timing. But what we're not aware of, or maybe, which, you know, what you've seen possibly, like I've seen this very recently, which is that time isn't linear, and you can be in flow, which then eradicates hours of work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting, actually, because I had a manuscript to submit a couple of weeks ago. And the deadline was coming closer and closer and closer, and I just wasn't feeling it at all. And I pushed it over the deadline, but actually what came was the downloads were really on fire. I'm just going to say it as it is. They were amazing, the downloads that came, because I let it go. And the world didn't end. The manuscript got submitted. It was at the publishers. It was all fine. But by allowing myself to really tune into my intuition and allow myself to be guided by myself, I didn't feel like I was under any pressure or any urgency, and I didn't just do it for the sake of getting it done. And I think that's one of the biggest things when we get into this. This is why I don't like the word should, because as soon as we step into this, oh, I should be doing it, that's not actually coming from us. That's not actually coming from anything that is attuned for us, really. It's coming from externally. It's coming from different expectations or different beliefs that we should be doing this to get somewhere. And really, when we stop and allow ourselves to listen to ourselves, and to like what you just said was really beautiful. And then I'm going to go and have a nap. And
I will after this.
Yeah, like how many of us in a working day, you know, like in air quotes, the working day, when the kids are at school or at nursery or whatever, allow ourselves to actually do those lovely things, like have a nap or just be, I mean, before I came on here, I was catching up with real trash TV because that was my bit of downtime, and I'm totally okay with that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess we don't realize that the pressure that we think we're under is actually self-created anyway.
Absolutely. Because we get to choose. This is what I always say. We get to choose. We're creating a business to create our version of freedom. So why choose? And this is what I did. I chose to create another job. And the difference was that I had more bosses. I had less time because each one of my clients became a boss that I was like running around after. I had less time. I had less money. I had more stress. And, you know, when we create from what we have experienced in the paradigm that we experience it in, you know, like corporate world or whatever it is that we see, then we're not truly creating from a place that is fully serving us. So how do you want to work? What is it that you want to do? How many hours do you want to work? What are your boundaries around that? Become really, really important to feel really good. And the better you feel, the more money you're going to make in your business. That's like the key, really.
So I kind of want to go back to the story of like what happened after you were in hospital. What kind of epiphanies did you have? I mean, aside from the fact that this couldn't go on, were there is anything else? Because for anyone that's listening in and is either experiencing burnout, have burnt out already, on the verge of burnout, I'd love to know what was really helpful for you, what you saw or what you've seen that's been really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. One of the biggest shifts for me was about my boundaries. And what I know now and didn't know then was that also starts to pull you into energetic alignment, so you become more magnetic to the opportunities and to everything that you truly desire. But at the time, what it meant was that instead of being a people pleaser to my clients, which I absolutely was, I didn't want to annoy anybody. I wanted to keep everybody on side. And that came, I suppose, in hindsight, from a bit of self-doubt in myself, because I hadn't worked in that capacity before. And so when I got really clear on my boundaries, like, here's when I'm going to stop answering emails, here's when I'm going to stop taking calls, here's when I'm going to be present with Archie, here's how much time I'm actually going to work, I started to feel less like I had lots of bosses, I guess. So what was happening was I was answering emails as soon as they came in at 11. If it was 11 o'clock at night, I was answering the email. And then whenever I tried to pull back from that, what would happen was they would start texting me, and then I would answer the text, and I'd start to get really frustrated. And then obviously that doesn't create a great vibe anyway. But when I looked at it, I was like, well, of course they're going to do this, because I've allowed my clients to look at me in this way. And also a bit of my ego is saying, I'm this important that I have to answer the email straight away. And as soon as I communicated the boundaries, here's when I stopped working, then it was actually really, it was fine. It wasn't the end of the world like I'd built it up in my head to be. Oh my God, how are they going to cope without not getting an answer immediately? And it was fine, but it allowed me to switch off, which was so important, to switch off. And on the days that Archie wasn't in nursery, I really cut back on the work I was doing. We spent a lot of time outside. And I like to say that at that moment, I implemented all this self-love and all this stuff. And I didn't. I mean, that has been a journey for sure. But in that moment, my biggest epiphany was around my boundaries. So how much do I actually want to work, and how am I going to make that a reality?
So I know that having worked with mums and women in business, and anyone that's listening to this, maybe you're in corporate, but you actually want to make that jump. One of the things that I've noticed is there's this worry that if I don't do that, then I'll lose the client. If I don't do that, then something awful is going to happen, right? Yeah. But what I've seen, or at least, if I don't work this hard, I'm not going to make the money. So I'm curious about what you've seen that might be helpful if somebody's coming to you with that sort of wonderful story and reality.
Yeah. And I've definitely had that. When I first started, like I just mentioned, I didn't want to be not answering emails, because what if then they fired me? And the reality is that what happened was that they valued me more because I'd started valuing myself more and my time more. So they actually had a lot more value for what I was delivering and for the time that I was then giving. And when we come from a place that we start to value ourselves more, that's what we're going to attract in. We're going to attract clients who value us in return, rather than the clients who, I've had this, I've worked with people who've had this, where we get into this place where I'm like, well, normally my rates are this much, but if you sign up, I'll do it a bit cheaper. Or as soon as we start talking to people, we're already assuming what they're going to pay, and we start bringing our rates down. And that's never led to anything that's positive, because actually they don't value what you're doing for them in return. And they also expect a whole lot more. And so for me, the self-valuing piece has been really huge, and being able to really say, actually, here's what I'm delivering. What I know is that, and again, this is my experience and what I see with my clients, is that it's very easy to base what you're delivering on time. And actually, what you're actually delivering is a transformation, whether it's a transformation of their website, whether it's a transformation of their life, whether it's a transformation in their business. You're actually creating and delivering them a transformation. It's not your time or how many PDFs you send them. It's about what is the value of that transformation. And that has been a huge game changer for me. And really stepping into it and owning that for myself has allowed me to create clients who value me because I value myself and what I deliver.
Yeah, when I was listening to you, I was thinking, that reminded me of a story that's actually in the book, which was around, I created this program years ago, and I'd made this sort of thing where I was like, no, I'm not going to do it in the evenings. I'm just going to do it during the day. And because I don't want to be doing any calls in the evenings. And then I had 3 potential clients that said, I can't make the calls in the evening. Can we do them during I can't make the calls during the day. Can we make them in the evening? And so I changed it. But funnily enough, those 3 clients that had asked me actually left the program. So then there was a group of women that basically we were having calls in the evening. And I suddenly thought, hang on a second, how many of you on this call want these calls in the evening? And they're like, no, we want them during the day. So it's just really funny how you think you're pleasing, or at least you think that this is actually the best way, but then I just that was a really valuable lesson for me in terms of just saying, actually, I'm going to design it the way I want to do it, and not do it the way that I think other people will value it. Because actually what I've seen is if you value it, that sort of thinking actually is very attractive. So it just, yeah. On that note, so you then obviously went from working hustle, pushing lots of hours to changing all of that. So what did change on the outside based on the inside?
It's really interesting because I refer to my journey as stubbornly failing for quite a long time. So yes, I made those immediate changes, but the changes that I've made in the last, I would say 2 years of my journey have been the biggest changes, and they've been really fundamental to how I do life and business, really. So I started diving more into the principles of energy. And at the same time, I started diving more into the principles of funnels. So we were a marketing agency, but we started to focus more predominantly on funnels as being a way to create consistency.
So anyone that's listening in that doesn't even know what funnels are, can you share a little bit more about them?
Absolutely. So funnels are an automated way to consistently generate leads or sales in your business. So it's essentially a way that you connect with strangers and turn them into lifelong customers without you doing all the hard work. So it's a really beautiful way to build relationships and connection. And it's something that's always working in your business for you, so that you've always got leads either booking calls with you or you're making sales, whatever your business model is. And the reason why I see that as so powerful, especially for mums in business, is that we never know what's going to happen. You know, if your children are sick off school, or you've got school holidays, or you maybe just want to go spend a day in the spa, it's almost like your permission slip to do all of those things, because your business is still working without you doing the work for it. So you're still generating those leads and sales. And so when I look at funnels and I look at energetic alignment together, then that's where the magic really happens. And go on.
No, I was going to say, what does energetic alignment mean to you?
Okay. So energetic alignment is the state that actually we are all born and created to be in. So imagine if everything that you want is at the end of the river. And very often we go into going up the river and doing it the hard way, when really if we just like let the boat take us down the river in flow, then we're going to get to everything that we desire. Because when we look at energy, I mean, essentially the principles of energy that I understand are that we are all vibrating at a certain frequency. We're all big bundles of energy. We're vibrating at a certain frequency, and the law of attraction says that we will attract in what we are. So when we're vibrating at a low frequency, so if we look at the scale, is this okay? I
don't know. Is it okay? I'm just listening, so I don't have no idea. So
okay.
If you tell me it's okay, then you get a pass, you get a tick.
Amazing. I'll just carry on. So
I'm not going to test you on it.
Is it easy to follow? Because I can.
Yeah. Well, it is to me. So anybody that's listening, if it's not, you can always send me an email and you can. Sorry at the end.
So there's this emotional frequency scale, and the high frequency, the high vibe, you've probably heard people saying be high vibe and vibe up and all these things. If you obviously can't see me, my hands going everywhere. I talk a lot with my hands. The high vibe frequencies are abundance and love and joy and happiness and the things that feel really good, whereas the low vibe frequencies are fear and scarcity and lack and doubt. And so when we are able to step into abundance and those kind of frequencies, we're able to attract in what we desire a lot faster. So that's where we get into energetic alignment. And when you have those days that everything just goes your way and everything falls into place, and you every light's on green and you always get the parking space where you want it to get, and you're getting random emails from people saying they want to sign up with you, that's because you're more likely to be in flow as to when you start the day and you get out of bed and whack your toe and then you spill your coffee and all these things, and you just start to have this day where it's this knock-on effect of things not going your way or seemingly not going your way, is when you're out of flow. So when we get to combine this beautiful alignment state, and I said at the beginning, feeling good is really the key to all of this, because obviously you've got to feel good when you're in abundance and joy and all these things. We're able to become hugely magnetic in our business with a funnel that is consistently bringing leads and opportunities to us. So, yeah.
Yeah, I call it grounding and logistics. So you've got like the state of being, and then you've got the logistical side, which can really support you. And I did a podcast ages ago with Ann Wilson around creating assets versus chasing income. And that's been the biggest shift for me this year, which is, I already had assets anyway, money coming in regardless of whether I worked or not. But this year I really wanted to focus on stopping the old pattern of the non-asset business side of it. So now this online course and creating the funnel, that's what we're up to. So it's just interesting how you come to it when you're ready. And it's not, like you said, that failing piece, I'm sure that that was really, really, really important for you to learn all the things that you've learned, for you to then kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Change, or just tweak, or that's not working, and what about this? Oh yeah, that makes sense, that would work better. For us to course correct, that's it, just to course correct. We don't know, I don't know, I have no bloody idea what's going to happen. But the only way I can actually get to know that, right, is by actually getting feedback.
Yeah, and it's so true. We have such, with Archie, we have such a positive attitude towards failing, because it's only the energy you put on a word. Failing is bad because we believe it to be bad, but actually the quicker we fail, the quicker we get to create what is going to be next. And it's always this evolution. And the more I approach it with playfulness, the easier it feels, because I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter, because when we're in the energy of play, It's like, well, either it's going to work or it's not, but so what? I'm having a great time doing this and it feels good. And really, without experiencing what we've experienced, we can't move into what is next. And it's the quickest way to get into alignment. It's the truth. It's the quickest way to understand. We can theoretically say what alignment is going to be for us, or what is going to be the thing that's going to work for us. But until we take the action, until we do it, we don't really ever know.
No. So Shari, speaking of which, what is next? I mean, from what we've been talking about, you've been, working with women or mums to help them create funnels so that they're creating assets versus another job, chasing the income, that sort of thing, so that they can actually have more time freedom and spend time with the people that they care about. I'm curious as to what's been bubbling up for you at the moment, because I've seen a few Facebook posts and so forth, and I'm just a bit curious about that and why that's important to you and where that's coming from.
Okay. So this is quite a new evolution of my work. So like you said, I've been working with mums and unshackling them from the paradigms really that we're in, and the way that society has us believe that we should be and behave and do and all these things. And when mamas are unshackled, they also unshackle their children in whatever way that looks like. So for me, the way that looks like is that I create a business on my terms in a way that feels good for me. And in return, I want to explore education with Archie. So we've been to school in various different places around the world, and we're still doing this exploration. And he's actually just starting a program, which is really new in the UK, to open his third eye and his intuition and all this amazing stuff. And, as I continue to explore why I'm in business, and the more I'm stepping into this world with Archie, the more I know that my next evolution is also to create the space for mamas and children to work together, not work together, to come together. So yes, I've got events where mamas are coming together, but what feels really good next is to have these beautiful like festivals or events, or I don't even know what shape it's going to take yet, where mamas come together with their children. They get to really deeply reconnect with them, and the children get to experience all of these beautiful energy principles and, manifestation and freedom. Like, you don't have to be in the system. You can choose what you want to be and all these different things, so that we are really coming from a place of freedom across the board, so that mamas also get to really deeply connect with their children. Because I've been in a relationship with Archie, and I've also not with Archie, like I've had a relationship whilst I've been a mum, and I've also been a single mum. And I know that in both of those experiences, the mum was not, like, I wasn't really fully there to have fun and be playful all the time with him. And that was something that I really want to bring the opportunity for people to do, so we can really reconnect with our children, or really deeply connect with our children. And that's started to evolve into so many more things, where I'm looking at creating a social enterprise so that I can go into schools and talk to children around like money and energy. And I can talk to parents and give parents the opportunity, especially parents with low income who don't get a lot of these opportunities, or consider that they have the choice to do these things with their children, to give them the opportunity as well, and to have them broaden their horizons and look outside of what is the paradigm that they're in now.
And what's possible. Yeah, it's interesting. I went skiing with my son recently. I took him, and it was one of those moments where I was like, actually, this is really cool to do something with Leo, and we're both really enjoying it. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that I want to do every year now with him as our little connection time. But also, just during the day, I realized, like, I'm getting into the habit now of spending, like, even if it's just 20 minutes before I have to make the meal, or, because there are things that need to get done, right? and I know, and I'm aware of the fact that he sometimes wants to join in and sometimes doesn't. So that's okay. It's not like he has to kind of be in the kitchen with me to prepare. He can just do his own thing. But like last night, I'm like, I haven't connected with him after school today. I'm going to have a bath with him. Yeah. And I know that there are certain things that I can do with him when I'm really connected to him, like a bath or like lying in bed with him, or usually when there's that sort of face-to-face interaction. And when I'm in an environment that calls for that, because if I'm downstairs in the kitchen or if I'm in the living room, there isn't like, there's distraction, right? So, or even just to play with him, just to sit with him for like 20 minutes and do some Lego with him. But even then that's distraction. It's not that sort of eye to eye connection, that cuddling, that sort of really intimate moment that you can have. And I'm becoming more and more aware of that, because the journey, I don't know, like maybe for mamas that are listening in, you might be at the point where you're like, for fuck's sake, this is a nightmare. I keep shouting at my children. I'm just getting through the day. And that's fine. Like, it's all good. You know, you feel what you feel in the way that you feel it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's just now that I'm kind of coming out of that, and I'm coming into like, what's possible now? Like what is possible now that I have assets that help. I have, you know, a son that I can connect with, and I'm not totally in my head all the time with regards to his behavior. It's a different question, and I guess it's a different narrative and a different conversation to the one that most mums are having, which is, how do I feed these kids? How do I make sure that they're looked after? Oh my God, I now have got this like huge list of things that I need to get done, and I don't have enough time in my day. Oh, George, can you just pick up that thing?
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, I've absolutely been there. When I started the business, I was living on, you know, Archie and I were on £20 a week, and that was for nappies and formulas and everything. And I get that. And what I wish I had have done, if I could go back, was to recognize, and this is what I do now, because I still get those days where I'm shouting at Archie, but I recognize that it's not him, it's me. And that's that at that time that I've got to go and look after myself a little bit more, or get some more sleep, or whatever it is, because they're just these beautiful little mirrors who are here to teach us so much. And it's about recognizing that too, I guess.
I love that. And yeah, it's like the other day I was in the kitchen, and like for the 500th time, he says, "Mummy," and I'm like, okay. So now I'm getting a little bit annoyed, as I've told you 1,000 times that I'm in mummy doing mode right now. So when I'm in mummy doing mode, that basically means I'm getting you ready for your day. And that means making your breakfast and your lunch, because I have to make those. And but he's up for it. So he's like, "Mummy." I was like, "Ah." And then I was like, "Oh, that's not him. That's me." So I love that you have that awareness, and often it makes it so much easier when we do have that awareness that it has got nothing to do with our kids, and that they're here to teach us that very thing, that is the awareness around where our experience is coming from.
It's so interesting, because I find there are some aspects of that I find really triggering. And obviously they're the aspects of myself that I don't particularly like. And that's fine. But there are some that I find is like this in the moment, real time, beautiful gift. So I'm really conscious about language. And I know that if Archie starts talking about a certain thing a lot, so one of the biggest ones for us is time. And so if he starts saying things like, "Am I wasting my time? You're always late," and this kind of stuff, I'm like, okay, time to detox the time language, because he's only reflecting what I'm putting out. So when I get that real time observation, it's really quick to go in and go, okay, well, I can detox my language around time. That's all good. So yeah, it's such an amazing experience, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, and that's all okay too.
So you went to Bali, you decided that that's the lifestyle you wanted, because often we can get so caught up in what the business has to look like, as opposed to asking the questions of, what do I want my lifestyle to look like, and let that be supported by the business. Is that kind of what you see a lot of with regards to mums that come to you, that they start with what they want to achieve in the business, but they haven't really thought much about what they want in their life.
100%. And this is why boundaries for me was the biggest breakthrough, because actually the work that I do now with the women that I work with through Gentle Hustle specifically is the first thing we do is look at your alignment to your values, to your lifestyle, to your boundaries before we look at anything else. There's no point doing any business stuff until those pieces are in place, because what I see, again, this is the energy principle coming through, that if you create a program that requires you to work 10 hours a day to deliver it, and you actually are only in alignment with 4 hours a day, energetically, you're never going to sell that program. Even if you're pushing all the time and in that hustle mode to sell the program, your energy is naturally repelling because you don't actually want to do that. That's not what your desire really is. And so when we get to that place and say, and it's that piece, isn't it? What's the point of creating a business and taking all that risk and doing all those things if you're actually just creating another 9 to 5? So how do you really want it to look? What do you really want your lifestyle to be? And how do you really want to show up in this? And then build the business around it. So many times, and this is why I mentioned about my corporate experience. And, you know, I definitely did this. I made a business, created a business, designed it around what I had experienced rather than what I actually wanted, what I desired. And then I had to rebuild because that's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And that makes just so much sense to me. So Shari, I know that you've got an event coming up in, when is it? It's
June the 21st. It's on the summer solstice.
Yeah, that's right, on the summer solstice. I'd love to know a little bit more about that, and maybe anybody that's listening in, if you're listening in from the States, then maybe you could fly in, I guess. But if you're in the UK, I'd love to know a little bit more about, you know, how it could help mamas that are listening in around if they are in a place where they need this.
Sure. Okay. So it's essentially a one-day event where you will come and get everything you need from that one day to step into a consistent 5-figure a month business. That's the headline piece of it. So we're going to work on the energetic side of it. We're going to remove anything that's holding you back. You're going to design what it is that you actually want your life to look like and who you be in that space, because that's one of the biggest pieces of this, is who we are is a direct reflection of what we create and what we bring into our reality. So let's design who we be. There's so many stories that we bring with us to our business life, and some of them are pretty hindering. And so we're going to clear all that out. Going to say it as it is. Clear all that out. We're going to create the new story of who you be. We're going to put all the pieces in place. I'm going to bring some really game-changing work to the day, and you're going to do the work on the day because you're a mum. You're going to come to London and you don't want to go back home and do loads more stuff. We're going to get it all done on the day so that you're really getting the shift straight away. And you're going to walk away with a funnel that you can use to grow your business and have that consistency and predictability and scalability and sustainability and all these amazing things in your business, so that you actually get to live the life that you desire in your version of freedom.
Amazing. Wow. There we go. So if you are listening in and you want the freedom you want from the inside out, then you have to go. Now, obviously, if you're listening to this and it's already been and gone, we'll put some links below in the notes so that you can you can have access to Shari, which I guess will be my next question. If somebody wants to contact you, how can they do that?
Sure. You can come find me on Facebook under Shari Thompson. And I also have a group which is Gentle Hustle Movement. And you can go to my website, which is being redesigned. It's not so pretty right now, but it's sharithompson.co.uk. You can come and connect with me there. I love to connect. So yeah, please come and say hello. That'd be lovely.
Wonderful. Well, for everybody that's been listening in, I hope you got as much out of it as I did. And remember, if you are on the verge of burnout, listen. and yeah, maybe there's a different way that you could be doing things. So until the next time, bye for now.
Thank you.
And there we have it, another amazing episode of The Joy of Being. If you enjoyed this podcast, you may well enjoy the book as well. You can either download a free chapter, www.marinapearson.com/chapter, where I go into much more depth into how we can create more time and space as mums. And if that doesn't fly and you're more curious about getting the entire book, then you can do that too at www.marinapearson.com/pre-order. There you'll find a page with all the amazing goodies that you'll get if you pre-order it before the 10th of May. So until next week's episode, remember, you are the joy you seek.